Get up in the morning, find breakfast with a flat white coffee, and search out the Auckland Art Gallery. The Auckland Art Gallery was a trip to remember, specifically because we saw the Morai portraits. Gottfried Lindauer was a prolific portrait painter who captured the images of the Morai chiefs at the turn of the last century. Abel Tasman, a Dutch explorer, was the first European to discover New Zealand. The Maritime Museum follows the country's history from Polynesian ocean travel across the vast Pacific, whaling stations, and on to the modern America's Cup victory. A cannon is fired daily at noon in front of the Marina restaurant, to all the diners' delight. Keep some cash handy for the quote-unquote free entertainment outside. If you are not too skittish, stand on the glass floor and view the sidewalk about 200 meters below your feet. Otherwise, your view will take you 80 kilometers on a clear day. The next day took us to the Auckland Museum, telling the story of New Zealand, its place in the Pacific, and its people. It has Morai and Pacific collections and major social commentary with military stories from the last 2 world wars. Now our journey begins in earnest. We pick up our caravan, the smallest we could rent, with a toilet. We intend to stop when we see something interesting. Warkworth is the first, a tiny village with historic buildings and a small marina hosting a number of antique boats. New Zealanders go tramping on tracks. We call it hiking on a trail. Our first tramp was Tawera Track, a big climb up from the ocean beach. I counted over 1,000 steps. Our turnaround point was a secret radar station built for World War II in 1942. Many New Zealand holiday parks offer more than just a campsite. They have cabins or self-contained mobile units, and all have large kitchens available for cooking. Our first stop today is Whangarei Falls, a 26-meter-high waterfall with an easy 1-kilometer circular walk around the falls. The walk seemed almost too easy. Our next stop are the public toilets in Kawakawa. Built in 1999, the toilets are considered both an international work of art and a tourist attraction. Go figure. Cape Reinga is the northernmost point of New Zealand. If you want to travel the island from end to end, you must stop here. Furthermore, Cape Reinga is where after death, spirits travel up the coast and over the windswept vista. Our stop for the night at the Pukenui Holiday Park was unique, with a collection of ducks, rabbits, pigs, and miniature ponies scattered over the grounds. We stop at 90 Mile Beach today, which is only 55 miles long. Just saying. The lesson for the day is do not drive the caravan onto the beach. We got stuck on the soft sand. It was like being in a snowdrift. Our trip to the northmost point of New Zealand started along the east side route of the Twin Coast Discovery Highway. We are now going south on the western side of the island. This includes a short ride on the Hokianga Ferry. It takes 15 minutes and costs about $20. Next we stop at Waipoua Forest to see the largest kuri tree in New Zealand, estimated to be 2,000 years old. It has a girth of almost 14 meters and is 50 plus meters in height. We end the day in Dargaville, founded in 1872 during the Koori gum and timber trade. Here we see the gum digger statue celebrating those who dug up fossilized resin from old Koori tree fields. Used mainly for varnish, it was a big business. The Kurai Museum is well worth a visit. We arrived before it is open and went next door for a flat white. Then we wandered the Pioneer Church across the road, including its cemetery with rows of graves, remembering their earliest pioneers. The museum tells the story of the early European settlers and the Kurai timber and gum harvesting. A fun fact, the models featured in historic dioramas have faces based on current residents in the area. Retracing our route, we passed through Auckland on our way to Hot Water Beach. Hot Water Beach has naturally occurring hot springs at low tide. Bring a shovel, look where others are gathering, dig a shallow hole, sit and enjoy nature's spa on the beach. Known for its easy hike with beautiful rock formations, Cathedral Cove has been a popular beach area. Since our visit, the track to the beach has been closed because of a risk of landslides and rockfalls. Our exploration continues as we explore Tangarangahake, try say that quickly, once a booming gold town of 2,000 people. Today, there's nothing left. You don't have to be a fan of Middle-earth, but Sir Peter Jackson's movies has created a thriving film industry and makes the Hobbit Town movie set a popular attraction. Another day, another tramp. This time 5 kilometers along the Waihu Walkway to the Blue Spring, where most of New Zealand's bottled water is sourced. We spend the next 2 nights in the Wakati Valley. No better place to camp. Filled with natural hot springs, I got up each morning and sat in a hot pool overlooking the valley. We spent the afternoon at the Living Morai village. Here people live using geothermal sources to cook, bathe, and heat their homes, as they have done for centuries. Great stop this morning was the glass-blowing studio called Lava Glass. We wandered the grounds, sat in the studio watching glass blowing, and then had lunch in a first-class cafeteria. Sorry, no videos of the glass blowing. I inadvertently erased them. Our stop tonight was Taupo, where we camped on the shore of Lake Taupo, a beautiful place to stay. Hiking options abound in the area. No driving today. We tramp on tracks nearby. Today's highlight stop, for me at least, was Mitre 10, New Zealand's mega hardware store. We purchased a hammer to pound in stakes for the caravan's canopy ropes. We're now along the east coast of the North Island, in the wine-producing area of Hawke's Bay. Napier was rebuilt in 1931 after a devastating earthquake. The city is now famous for its Art Deco buildings of that period. Each year there is a big concert in Napier. The day before we arrived, Phil Collins had played. Everyone asked us if we were at the concert. We didn't even know there was a big concert each year. If you're going, plan for it. Crossing through the spine of the North Island, we go to Palmerston North. One question. We've driven miles upon miles and have seen nary a sheep. Where are they? Next stop, Wellington, capital of New Zealand. I'm a keen cyclist, but New Zealand roads have narrow or no shoulders. This shoulder was wider than most. Wellington is a pretty city to wander. Taking the Wellington cable car, we overlook the city. Here I overheard a fellow saying he no longer travels with a camera. He simply takes photos off the web when he gets home. I don't know if he takes selfies. Lord of the Rings fans will make the Weta Workshop tour a must-stop. Sir Peter Jackson made New Zealand a leader in movie special effects. Modern special effects are not the only thing to see. Miniatures used to create the 1960s television series Thunderbirds Are Go are fascinating to see. It brings back memories of watching TV on Saturday mornings. The Weta Workshop created an exhibit to tell the story of Gallipoli from the eyes of ordinary people. Gallipoli was a military failure, but lives on in Australia and New Zealand, who were proud of how their men had performed on the world stage. In the museum, you can read the 1954 Mason-Garb report on juvenile delinquency, which blamed perceived promiscuity of New Zealand youth on working mothers, readily available contraceptives, and young women enticing men to have sex. I would guess the report mirrors the belief some adults hold today. Nothing changes. Ferry trip between the North and South Islands takes 3.5 hours. We were told there would be no problem getting on in mid-February, but it was fully booked, and we waited an extra day to make the trip. The voyage is very scenic. We wandered the Edwin Fox Ship Museum this morning. The Edwin Fox is the last surviving ship that took convicts to Australia, the last wooden Crimea War troop carrier, the oldest merchant ship in the world, a pioneering refrigeration ship, and the oldest wooden ship to bring immigrants to New Zealand. Detouring from our planned route due to forest fires, we head to the west coast of the South Island. Paying $12.50, we crossed at Cross New Zealand, the country's longest swing bridge at 110 meters over the Buller River. Treks range from 10 minutes to 2 hours. On return, you can take a zip line. Starting at the little seaside village of Nakawa, we walk to Charming Creek Walkway. That's the name, not a description. You can choose a 3.5 kilometer or 9.5 kilometer route. We chose the shorter. The walk follows the rail line to an old coal mine. The drive along the coast is picturesque, like most of New Zealand. We stop at Cape Foulwind. You can surmise why it is named that way. A sea colony, a lighthouse, and panoramic coastal views are found on this 7-kilometer tramp. A must-stop is Pancake Rocks. Geologists will tell you these are limestone formations that began forming 30 million years ago when fragments of dead marine creatures were deposited. Earthquakes raised them from the seabed. For everyone else, it looks like stacks of pancakes. Bridge crossing the Waiho River is under construction and we just missed being allowed to cross. So we left the cars stopped at the front of the line and went to get a hamburger for lunch. This was one of our more adventurous hikes and considered a challenging 7-kilometer tramp. We circled Diamond Lake and get some nice views. Spotting the National Transport and Toy Museum, we hit the brakes hard and stopped to visit one of the world's largest collections of aircraft, vehicles, and toys. That's what the website says. It might be overstated, but it was a fun stop. featured attraction today was the Cardrona Bras fence. Started anonymously between Christmas 1998 and New Year's 1999 with the hanging of 4 bras. Our drive takes us over the mountains and through New Zealand's favorite ski area. No snow at this time of the year, but a great highway to drive. We come to Arrowtown, a former gold rush mining town. We visit the museum and wander the streets. Queenstown sits on the shores of Lake Wakatipu. Renowned for adventure sports, it even boasts a hockey arena. We spend the morning walking along the Frankton Arm and have scones and flat whites at the Boat Shed Cafe and Bistro. We sign up for a tour to Milford Sound. We get picked up at our holiday park and leave the driving to someone else. A feature of the drive to Milford Sound is going through the mountain. Homer Tunnel is 1.2 kilometers long. Construction began in 1935 as a relief effort during the Depression, with only 5 men using picks and wheelbarrows. The tunnel opened in 1953, 18 years later. The boat tour of Milford Sound provides a great view of the peaks surrounding the fjord and its waterfalls, along with the guide's commentary about its discovery and flora and fauna.
How about that, folks? That was quite beautiful, quite impressive. We can finish the tour right now.
Initially, the fjord was overlooked by European explorers. Its narrow opening did not appear to lead to such a large bay. start the day watching a cat circle a trap with a rat inside. Here's a piece of information. There were no mammals in New Zealand until people brought them, starting with the Morai, who sailed to New Zealand in their small boats. We take a boat to cross Lake Ta'ano to go into the glowworm caves. The caves we visit were rediscovered in 1948 by Lawson Burroughs, who found the entry after 3 years searching, following clues in old Morai legends. We found the Fiordland Vintage Machinery Museum strictly by chance while driving by. The museum was established in the early 70s by a group of enthusiasts wanting to preserve Te Ano's early history. We had to visit the E. Haynes & Sons hardware store. We parked on the street outside in Invercargill. They have been serving the community for 9 decades. Their story is longer than I can relate here. Look them up. The 2005 movie, The World's Fastest Indian, tells the story of Burt Munro, who broke a world speed record on the Bonneville Salt Flats in 1967. His motorbike is on display in their store, along with many other cars and motorcycles. We now drive to Wapapa Point, our most southerly destination. A short distance away, we walk to see the view at Slope Point. The walk is across private farmland. There is no public access during lambing season, which is September to November. Stopping at a roadside coffee stand, we find ourselves in Waikawa, population 1,600. We wander through a local craft show in the old church and meander through their tiny museum. Dunedin had plenty to see, starting with the Otega Settlers Museum, highlighting the area from its indigenous roots to its start as a whaling station to caravan camping. The highlight of Dunedin was a drive to the Royal Albatross Centre, where we had a close-up view of these big birds. Taking a tour, we had a close-up view of the disappearing gun. The gun would rise up from its bunker, fire, and drop down out of sight. Amazing! It was built in 1889. Waiting for nightfall, we watched the blue penguins return to their burrows. They spend the day at sea, returning each evening. Someone's vacation took a turn for the worse. Their caravan was loaded onto a tow truck and taken for repair. Scattered along the beach, the spherical Moraki boulders. Interesting rocks. Makes me imagine huge dinosaur eggs.
Another coffee stop, Hampton, population 340. It seemed bigger. The Totera estate is a historic farm, originally 15,000 acres in size. It was the birthplace of New Zealand's billion-dollar frozen meat industry. We had the farm to ourselves. There were sheep of every description. I never knew there were so many breeds. We arrive in Oamaru, set up camp, and walk through the park nearby and into the downtown. Now for something different. Steampunk, described as history and fantasy colliding with technology. You need imagination, some heavy steel, and a welder.
Oh, and the flame goes.
Welcome to Steampunk Headquarters. Enjoying visit.
Keep going.
Upon arrival, Diane said she liked Christchurch. Lots of green spaces, plenty of places to park. All after effects of the 2011 earthquake. There used to be buildings on these open areas. We wanted coffee. It takes 5 minutes to brew each cup. 20 people were ahead of us. We waited 30 minutes and gave up.
Got Winstone microwave ovens, custom kitchen deliveries. Got movies,
The 2011 earthquake dominates life in Christchurch. The city is still far from recovering after more than a decade. We visit Earthquake City, which tells the story of the quake and the rescue efforts entailed after the catastrophe. Questions remain if some buildings, such as Christchurch Cathedral, will ever be restored. We then went inside the Christchurch Transitional Cathedral, built from cardboard. "185 empty white chairs was an unofficial memorial to the 185 people who lost their lives in the earthquake. The memorial was closed and the chairs removed in April 2023. Fred and Myrtle's shell-adorned home living room is now a permanent display in the museum. History of Antarctic exploration is well worth spending serious time. We spend our last day going up the Christchurch gondola and get an overview of the city and area.